Hey, Grand Rising, everybody. Welcome back to First Frequency of Wonders. Shock Metaphysics. It's me, the ball wonder himself, Reverend Dr. Philippe Shock Matthews, aka the Metaphysical Morpheus. And we are here with part two. I told you we were going to come back, and we did it. We came back with Brother Keenan Booker, kickedoutofheaven.com, and our his first webinar that he gave 2 weeks ago was magnificent. People are still, all of you are still letting us know how amazing that was. Well, now it's getting ready to get even more amazing. So, without further ado, welcome back, Brother Keenan Booker. What's going on, man?
Uh, what's going on? There's a lot going on, but we're gonna stay focused on Christmas right now. I appreciate you for having me back again. Last week we did something phenomenal with the Krampus and had to let everybody know about the origins of that, including the mistletoe. But this week we're gonna go in on Grilla, as Reverend Dr. Phillip here has asked me. You got Grilla, right? We're gonna do the Grilla.
Couldn't even remember her name,
Okay.
like Godzilla, Godzilla. What the hell is this chick? But that was
Grilla, it could be enunciated
the chick
Gryla. It is an Icelandic
eating
word.
babies and
So
stuff. I wanted to know about this chick. What the hell was that about?
yeah, so her picture is inside the third volume. Go get the 3-volume series right now for $50 at kickedoutofheaven.com. Everything is there. You get all three by over 1,000 pictures and all the information about the medieval, which is very pertinent to our everyday lifestyle here in America. As we see, we're celebrating Christmas during the winter season right now. And this doesn't necessarily come from our origins, it comes from Western civilization origins. And there's a ton of things that are compiled when it comes to ritualistic practices that stem from many different areas inside of Europe that create what we know today as Christmas, Santa Claus, and the red-nosed reindeer, the Christmas tree, the presents underneath the tree, the whole thing comes from many different cultural backgrounds in Europe that were combined to
Mm.
deal with, to develop with what we celebrate here in America. So one thing we're going to go over, besides Grilla, who is a troll in Iceland, after that we're going to be talking about Zwarte Piet, and that is going to be the meat and the potatoes of today, and you'll see why here shortly when we go over it. And then we'll be going over the Mummers as well, which is a parade that is held up currently in Philadelphia, in Philly. They do
Mm.
these. Yeah. So what's really interesting is that not only is Christmas compiled with a lot of different ceremonial practices, is that they still maintain those ceremonial practices not only in their origin lands but here in America.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it
Mm-hmm.
here in America in a fashion and in communities where nobody else is there and nobody else knows what the ceremony or the ritual is and can't explain it. But Europeans maintain their line of their cultures and what the significance of it is, and they keep it going for generations after generations. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
Keeping that
we'll
energy
talk about
alive.
but yeah, they keep it alive, and that is, you best believe, that is a root sustenance on their connectivity psychologically, and also their agreements line and who is who and what is what pertaining to how they operate in America. Okay,
Gotcha.
so yeah, we can get into it. Let me pull it up. You can pull it up on the screen. You got it on the screen.
All right, hold on. Here we go.
And
Hold
Shock,
on.
if they
Colin
if,
Pierre. He says,
yeah.
"Greetings, family. I ordered books through website. Later, I received email asking for a U.S. address. I live in Canada. Uh, don't know if done it
Yeah,
through
the
PayPal.
Canadian and UK orders are over $100 on shipping and handling, and that has nothing to do with me. That is with the U.S. Postal Service.
Okay.
is
Well,
man.
got to figure that one out, Colin. Hook up
Right.
with
So just
brother
email
Keenan,
me and we can figure it out. You'll get
and
your
we'll
refund
figure
or
it
whatever
out.
the case.
Okay. All right. And let me see here. Okay. Okay. We got it good. Okay. Here we go. Let's go. Oh, I thought I put it up. There we go.
And
There we
right, like you
go.
just put up that
Full screen.
statement right there. If there's any questions going on in the chat, you have to repeat it back to me because I don't
No
there's no
problem.
chat
I
pulling
got
up
you.
on my side.
No problem. Got you.
Okay.
Let's
So
do it.
here we go. This is old Grilla right here. Okay. This is a picture of her eating an infant. All right. So let's find out who this lady is and why she does the activity that she does. Grilla is a mythical giantess living in the mountains of Iceland. Most of the stories told about Grilla were to frighten bad children, and her name is mentioned in Snorri Sturluson's 13th century Edda or Edda. Grilla was not directly linked to Christmas until the 17th century. By that time, she had become the mother of the Yule lads. Terry Gunnell hypothesizes that the medieval custom of dressing as Grilla may be related to other visiting traditions, such as Yule buck or the Yule goat, and that her name may mean threat or threatening. She has the ability to detect children who are misbehaving year round. During Christmas time, she comes from the mountains to search nearby towns for her meal. She leaves her cave and hunts for the children. She devours children as her favorite snack. Her favorite dish is a stew of naughty kids for which she has an insatiable appetite. According to legend, there is never a shortage of food for Grilla. According to folklore, Grilla has been married 3 times. Her third husband, Lapaloi, is said to be living with her in their cave in the Demu and look at that word, Demu which also could be the demiurge, okay, which is something that stems directly out of ancient Egypt. The Demu lava fields with the big black Yule cat and their sons. As Christmas approaches, Grilla sets off for naughty boys and girls, and the Grilla legend has appeared in many stories, poems, and plays in Iceland, and sometimes Grilla dies at the end of the story. So she is in the folklore position, but definitely in the same system of a child receiving a black coal in their stocking from being a bad kid all year, which is something we went over in the last show, right? So next we're going to be talking about Zwarte Piet. Okay, and I got to show you a lot of pictures of what's going on with Zwarte Piet. So if you look at all these pictures, it's white people in blackface, obviously. Okay, can you see that clearly on the screen?
They're a little small. I don't know if you can go
Yeah, I
make
can
your
make it a little
PowerPoint full
bigger
screen.
here. Let me see here. Hold on, yeah. Okay, so females in blackface, like this one right here, men in blackface. Okay, and this is a mockery of the Moors. Okay, as you see, this one right here is Zwart Piet racism, Zwart Piet, Black Pete is Dutch, da 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 da, da, so on and so forth. Okay, so yeah, so right here, let's go into it. Sinterklaas, which is the origin name of Santa Claus, is assisted by many mischievous helpers with black faces and colorful Moorish dresses. These companions are called Zwart Piet, which means Black Pete. Zwart Piet first appeared in print as the nameless servant of Saint Nicholas, um, and Saint Nicholas and his servant apprentice, published in 1850 by Amsterdam school teacher Jan Schenkman. However, the tradition appears to date back at least as far as the early 19th century. Zwart Piet's colorful dress is based on 16th century noble attire with a rough lace collar and a feathered cap. He is typically depicted carrying a bag which contains candy for the children. The Zwartpedian toss their candy around, a tradition supposedly originating in the story of St. Nicholas saving 3 young girls from prostitution by tossing golden coins through their window at night to pay their dowries. Traditionally, he would also carry a birch rod, a chimney sweep broom made of willow branches used to spank children who had been naughty. Some of the older Sinterklaas songs make mention of naughty children being put in Zwart Piet's bag and being taken back to Spain. This part of the legend refers to the times that the Moors raided the European coast, and as far as Iceland, to abduct the local people into slavery. This quality can be found in other companions of St. Nicholas, such as Krampus and Pierre of Foutard. In modern versions of the Sinterklaas feast, however, Zwart Piet no longer carries the row, and children are no longer told that they will be taken back to Spain in Zwart Piet's bag if they have been naughty. Okay. Over the years, many stories have been added, and Zwart Piet has developed from a rather unintelligent helper into a valuable assistant to the absent minded saint. In modern adaptations for television, Sinterklaas has developed a Zwart Piet for every function, such as a head Piet, hoofed Piet, a navigation Piet to navigate the steamboat from Spain to the Netherlands, a gift wrapping Piet to wrap all the gifts, and an acrobatic Piet to climb roofs and chimneys. Traditionally, Zwart Piet's face is said to be black because he is a Moor from Spain. Today, some prefer to say that his face is blackened with soot because he has to climb through chimneys to deliver gifts for Sinterklaas. So we see how history can be rewritten when we direct information towards the children. You see that? At first, it was a Moor from Spain, and now it's black because of soot from the chimney. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
by that one little move, you've erased Moors completely out of the history line.
Wow.
Okay. Right. And coming from Spain specifically, because that's where they entered into in 7-Eleven. And this goes back to, a question you asked me about a year ago to write a book on the Moors and
Mhm.
why that whole space in between 7-Eleven and 1400 is completely erased. All right. And we see it right here with this story on it was saying that they left Spain to look for slaves. So their their intent basically in Europe, which was a international understanding that during that time period that you could fall into slavery for a multitude of different reasons as a consequence of being a criminal, or because you fell into a space of debt, or because you were just in a you weren't in an intellectual space to be able to carry on for yourself. So slavery was a part of the average understanding for all of mankind across the entire planet. So we may look at it today, and even right now, there's more slavery going on the planet right now than supposedly has ever occurred. Is what the statistics state, and that's internationally as well. So when we hear about this now, we want to turn up our nose towards it, but understand that that has been a part of the dynamic of survival and production for since man has started. Okay, since mankind has begun, we've done this whole slavery thing, right? So let me continue on. The figure of Zwart Piet is considered to by some to be racist. As such, the traditions surrounding the holiday of Sinterklaas have been the subject of numerous editorials, debates, documentaries, protests, and even violent clashes at festivals. Many large cities and television channels now only display Zwart Piet characters with some suit marks on the face rather than full blackface, so-called chimney Pete's. Nevertheless, both Zwart Piet and the holiday remain popular in the Netherlands. In a 2013 survey, 92% of the Dutch public did not perceive Zwart Piet as racist or associate him with slavery, and 91% were opposed to altering the character's appearance. So they just because they didn't claim it as racist, they still wanted to maintain the energy of the caricature and the character, for the essence of what the historical symbology it represents. Okay, because that's not going to change. All right. Now, in Germany, Christmas Eve is for children the most joyous night in the year, as they then feast their eyes on the magnificence of the Christmas tree. Yeah, we're going into the Christmas tree now. All right. And rejoice in the presents which have been provided for them on its branches by their parents and friends. The tree is arranged by the senior members of the family in the principal room of the members of the family, in the principal room of the house. Sorry about that. And with the arrival of evening, the children are assembled in an adjoining apartment. At a given signal, the door of the great room is thrown open, and in rush the juveniles, eager and happy. There on a long table in the center of the room stands the Christmas tree, every branch glittering with little lighted tappers, while all sorts of gifts and ornaments are suspended from the branches, and possibly also numerous other presents are deposited separately on the table, all properly labeled with the names of the respective recipients. The Christmas tree seems to be a very ancient custom in Germany and is probably a remnant of the splendid and fanciful pageants of the Middle Ages. Apparently, since the marriage of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, previous to which time it was almost unknown in this country, the custom has been introduced into England with the greatest success and must be familiar to most of our readers. Though thoroughly an innovation on our old Christmas customs, and partaking indeed somewhat of a prosaic character, rather at variance with the beautiful poetry of many of our Christmas usages. He would be a cynic indeed who could derive no pleasure from contemplating the group of young and happy faces who cluster around the Christmas tree to share its pleasant fruit. In the state of Pennsylvania in North America, where many of the settlers are of German descent, Christmas Eve is observed with many of the ceremonies practiced in the fatherland of the Old World. The Christmas tree branches forth in all its splendor, and before going to sleep, the children hang up their stockings at the foot of the bed, to be filled by a personage bearing the name of Krish Kringle, a corruption of Christ Krindlin, or the infant Christ, who is suspended to descend the chimney with gifts for all good children. If, however, anyone has been naughty, he finds a birch rod instead of sweetmeats in the stocking. This implement of correction is believed to have been placed there by another personage called Pels Nickel, or Nicholas with the fur, in allusion to the dress of skins which he is supposed to wear. In this notion, a connection is evidently to be traced with the well-known legendary attributes of Saint Nicholas, previously described, though the benignant character of the saint is in the instance woefully believed. It is further to be remarked that though the general understanding that Krish Kinkle and Pels Nicole are distinct personages, the one the rewarder of good children, the other the punisher of the bad. They are also occasionally presented as the same individual under different characters, the prototype of which was doubtless the charitable Saint Nicholas. Okay. S.T. Coleridge, in a letter from Ratsburg in North Germany, published in The Friend and quoted by Hone, mentions the following Christmas customs as observed in the locality. Part of them seems to be derived from those ceremonies proper to St. Nicholas Day, already described under the 6th of December. There is a Christmas, the girls are all busy, and the boys save up their pocket money to buy these presents. What the present is to be is cautiously kept secret, and the girls have a world of contrivances to conceal it, such as working when they are out on visits, and the others are not with them, getting up in the morning before daylight. Then on the evening before Christmas Day, one of our parlors is lighted up by the children, into which the parents must not go. A great yellow bow is fastened on the table at a little distance from the wall. A multitude of little tapers are fixed in the bow, but not so as to burn it till they are nearly consumed, and colored paper. It hangs and flutters from the twigs. Under this bow, the children lay out in great order the presents they mean for their parents, still concealing in their pockets what they intend for each other. Then the parents are introduced, and each presents his little gift. They then bring out the remainder one by one from their pockets and present them with kisses and embraces. Where I witnessed this scene, there were 8 or 9 children, and the eldest daughter and the mother wept aloud for joy and tenderness, and the tears ran down the face of the father, and he clasped all his children so tight to his breast, it seemed as if he did it to stifle the sob that was rising within it. Okay. I was very much affected. The shadow of the bow and its appendages on the wall, arcing over on the ceiling, made a made a pretty picture, and the raptures of the very little ones when at last the twigs and their needles began to take fire and snap. Oh, it was a delight to them. On the next day, in the great parlor, the parents lay out on the table the presents for the children. A scene of more sober joy succeeds, as on this day, after an old custom, the mother says privately to each of her daughters, and the father to his sons, that which he has observed and praiseworthy, and that which was most faulty in their conduct. Formerly, and still in all the smaller towns and villages throughout North Germany, these presents were sent by all the parents to some one fellow, who high buskings, a white robe, a mask, an enormous flax wig, uh, personates Net Rubert, the urban Rubert. On Christmas night, he goes round to every house and say that Jesus Christ, his master, sent him thither. The parents and elder children receive him with great pomp and reverence, while the little ones are most terribly frightened. He then inquires for the children, and according to the character which he hears from the parents, a rod, and in the name of his master, recommends them to use it frequently. About 7 or 8 years old, the children are let into the secret, and it is curious how faithfully they keep it. Do we got any questions so far?
None so far, but this is absolutely fascinating how they keep this energy alive and how it began.
Right. And not only how they kept it alive, but gave us a Fox version or a compiled version, and the natives keep it alive, which allows them
Mm-hmm.
room to keep the original, like the Krampus and the Zwarte Piet,
Mm-hmm.
alive here in America.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see how that works?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's very pertinent and very important for you to do your research on the culture that has engulfed the whole planet. Okay. Caesarius of Aros in 470 to 542 is when he lived, is not one whit less emphatic. Is there any sensible man, he asked with biting irony, who could ever believe that there are actual rational individuals willing to put on the appearance of a stag to transform themselves into wild beasts? Some dress themselves in the skins of herd animals, others put on the heads of horned beasts, swelling and wildly exulting, if only they can so completely metamorphose themselves into the animal kind that seem to have entirely abandoned the human shape. And again, he warns the faithful. Wherefore, if ye abhor any participation in their sins, ye will not suffer these human stags or bull calves or other monsters to approach you. Nay, not so much as to come nigh your dwellings. He also writes, I would fain believe that so foul a tradition, so evil a custom hath been abolished. But if ye know of any who practice this most heinous abomination of guising themselves as a roebuck or a musson stang, do ye chast such with sword stripes. Okay. So this goes into, again, a part of the Krampus type of thing, but this is also in reference to the reindeer and wearing the reindeer doesn't have horns. They have what are they,
Called
antlers. Okay.
antlers. Mm-hmm.
Right. They have antlers. They don't have horns. So that's also in reference to this. But one thing that I find interesting is that all cultures across the planet do this thing of trying to duplicate the animal, or trying to move or trying to invoke the prowess or the power or the defensive skills of an animal. Okay. And we even see that all of Egyptian gods have animal heads. And that's one thing we can't look over either. So this includes African tribes. This includes, Asiatic tribes, ancient China. They all do this thing with the invoking the or trying to invoke the animal energy. Okay. So let's keep it going here. In spite of denunciations of the fathers and doctors, these buffoon but evil rites persisted, although shorn to some degree of their primitive offense, and they are found intermixed with the medieval Feast of Fools and the Feast of Asses, with which the inferior clerics in cathedrals and collegiate churches were not riotously to usher in the new year. At these outrageous and extraordinary festivals, hideous and repulsive masks were often worn, as they are termed by Pope Innocent III, who, issuing a decretal to the archbishop and bishops of the province of Nessen in Poland, directed that all such grotesque clowning should be at once discontinued. No doubt, there were beast masks furnished with the most of fantasies, uh, corniculate projections, a remnant of the actual skins and hides of animals. Some writers have found an Oriental origin for the Feast of Fools, but this does not seem probable. Although similar mock revels were held in Constantinople, and in the 12th century, the patriarch Balsamon uh, unavailingly combated an ancient custom with the clergy of Saint Sophia refused to abandon. They claim the right at Christmas and Candlemas to wear masks and to enter the sanctuary in the guise of soldiers or of monks or of four-footed beasts. There was no abuse amid all the indecorum of the burlesque celebrations, which was reproved with great severity and visited with sterner censure by the church. And this, no doubt, because such a masquerade was definitely traceable to the old superstitions of witchcraft, although the evil of the connection had in actual fact and practice entirely disappeared, and on the face of it, at worst, it was mere ribald mumming, which we're about to get down here to the mumming here in a second here. Okay. The medieval chronicles in Latin offer a quantity of facts that the authors sometimes relate to a ritual date with mythical value. In the Norman Chronicle of the 11th century, there is, for example, the encounter with the Mesne Heliquin, a parade of revenants led by a sinister club-wielding figure behind whom is concealed a major deity of the other world. This procession is very precisely placed on the night of December 31st into January 1st, during the calends of January, which are well known for their superstitions. Now, when they say the sinister club-wielding figure, he had a name. This sinister club-wielding figure is today the leader of your marching bands.
Wow.
Okay? Right. And the leader of your marching bands during those times, he had several names. One name was the Lord of Misrule. Another name is the Abbot of Unreason. And I want to include a new one that I've invented, Chief Dumbass. Okay. Because and these individuals, the Lord of Unreason, the Lord of Misrule, sorry about that, it's the Lord of Misrule. So you can actually Google that title, the Lord of Misrule, and he's also described very well in the volume 3 of the series. He had a whole ritualistic practice behind him, and he was the individual that was basically the king of the debauchery during the course of a ceremony. So he was the one that gave orders on who was to do what in the highest levels of degradation and backwardness. Okay. And this backwardness was imposed because of the stresses of everyday life. The stresses of everyday life, which confines you into a specific social position and doesn't allow you to explore uh, areas of superiority or managerial skills or those who are at a higher echelon in society, leaves you confined and puts you into a form of depression. So there's many different ceremonies or many different holidays that Western civilization created so you could step outside of your everyday social burden and experience the role of the power of the superiority or the power of the managerial skills that come from the elites. So basically, they would flip roles. So the king would become the peasant, and the peasant gets to become a king for a week. And that is really the root definition to a lot of the holidays that are in Western civilization. And a lot of the, and it's done in a lot of different forms. That's why you saw the title of one that I just mentioned. Well, two of them was called the Feast of Fools or the Feast of Asses. And that's what they're talking about. And also, when they say Feast of Asses, the ass is correlated to the donkey. And the donkey is what Jesus rode on Palm Friday. So the to live into the spirit of not knowing. The ass or the donkey is the definition of ignorance is bliss. Okay.
Nice.
So
Got you. Okay. Makes sense. Fascinating.
it's funny you said it like that because, like I stated in the last one we did last week, if they're kicking the world's ass, you know, which is what's going on and has been going on for a couple of centuries now, no matter what they do, it assisted them to get to that position, whatever we find inside of their cultural activity and behavior. So even though it may be the highest level of retardation, we have to find what makes sense out of it that assisted them to conquer the way they have. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, have to reverse engineer.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, even though it's wrong and, it's shit being thrown out the window and all of this, like, so for instance, shit being thrown out the window, which was a common practice, Gardy Lou. That's all you had to yell. It was Gardy Lou and dump the shit out the window. That has adjusted the European mind to always look out for shit coming. You see that?
Nice. Nice.
You see how that works? So now
Mm-hmm.
their mind is adjusted at all times for to be looking for shit coming. you know, and it's ingrained in their DNA for that type of mentality, which looking out for shit coming does what? Make you advance your security lines, correct? So that's where we get gated communities. That's where we get an advancement on weapons and different forms of weapons. This is where we get an inculcation of learning all the martial arts on the planet and bringing it into America. Okay, as they have done, because that's a form of security and that's a form of looking out for shit and being prepared for shit. You see that?
Nice.
So you got to find the right within the wrong. Well, what may appear wrong to you, but you got to see how it has developed.
Well, as a
In
researcher, though, as a researcher and my community, we know that this is about research, not about emotionality. So take your emotions completely out of it. Get the data, get the facts, and get the data, and don't judge, which in research terms is known as dosha. So don't dosha is another term for confirmation bias. So put your biases aside, get the information so you can learn how to reverse engineer this information so you can it's like any as they say, in order uh, 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 to catch a criminal you have to think like one. So
mm,
it's the same as this work that we're doing
mhm,
right here,
mhm,
and this is what you've uncovered in this 3 volume series. This is great. Keep going.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. So let's keep riding, and I hope y'all got some questions developed for me for at the end, and we can I'll be able to explain some more things. So here we go. Thus, it seems entirely natural to fix the nativity of Christ on this night of the mothers, or night of the fairies, on which the birth of profaned heroes was already celebrated. The setting of Christmas on December 25th seems a clear association with the pagan custom of attaching the fairy repacy to the birth of an exceptional individual. Indeed, many rites of Christmas find mythical counterparts in the folk memory that associated this predestined date with the world of fairy. Santa Claus is nothing other than the benefit figure of the wild man, the fairy figure from the other world who periodically visits men to give them gifts. Now, we talked about the wild man. You remember that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I remember that in the
Right.
workshop.
So
Yes.
so now we see that Santa Claus, his figure, okay, is not of a Saint Nick, even though he had a big beard as well, but also with the red clothing that he wears that is usually of fur, right? It's furry, right?
Mm-hmm.
May symbolize the overgrowth hair that we find on the wild man, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the evil side of the wild man would be a werewolf.
Gotcha.
You see, with its development through the other world, and the other world, when they say other world, we're talking about folklore in its living standpoint. Okay. So that's where your tree gnomes are at. That's where your trolls are at. That's where your leprechauns. That's where your dragons are at. That's where your fairies are at. They're all inside the other world. Okay. So let's keep it going. It was Winter Eve when the Nod Fir, the Need Fire, was kindled to provide hope of the rebirth of the light after the winter darkness to come. Guy Fawkes Day is a secular replacement of this old fire festival. Between Christmas and Epiphany, the medieval Feast of Fools was often held, where a ritual return to chaos was enacted in the form of licentious reveling. When they say licentious reveling, that's another way of saying wild orgy. Okay. This was essentially a winter solstice rite, signifying the beginning of a new year and a new life. The Roman Saturnalia of December is from the 17th to the 24th, was such a cosmic renewal rite. The birth of Mithra occurred on December 25th, and that of Osiris on January 6th. Later, the Christian Epiphany. Okay. So what we have down here, these pictures are pictures of mummers. Okay. These are individuals who wear animal heads and sing songs, sing the Christmas songs. And Christmas songs
Can you
or,
increase the
or
size of those?
caroling outside of your front door is actually a form of extortion. Um,
Can you increase the size of those a little bit?
the size of them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one. We'll do the other one here. Okay.
Perfect.
So right. So caroling in front of your front door, which is imagery that I don't know if this new generation has seen before. But me and you, we've definitely seen that type of stuff. Even on early Coca-Cola commercials and McDonald's commercials, you would witness the caroling. So caroling, which stemmed over into church practices of today, was originally done by the poor. They would come outside of your home, beating pans and making noise, sometimes singing, sometimes not, playing instruments poorly in order to extort a piece of bread from you, some food, or some change. Okay. And then once you gave them some food or some change, they'll go to the next house. Then they'll go to the next house. Then they'll go to the next house. And they'll just keep on going and keep on going, expecting to receive some gibsma from wherever they go, as long as they're causing a nuisance. Okay. So let's keep it going. Looking back to the Roman Saturnalia, from which so many of our Christmas usages are derived, we find that the practice of masquerading was greatly in vogue at that season among the people of Rome. Men and women assumed respectively the attire of the opposite sex, and masks of all kinds were worn in abundance. The early Christians, we are informed, used on the feast of the circumcision or New Year's Day to run about in masks in ridicule of the pagan superstitions. But there can be no doubt that they also frequently shared in the frolics of their heathen neighbors, and the fathers of the church had considerable difficulty in prevailing on their members to refrain from such unedifying pastimes. Afterwards, the clergy endeavored to metamorphose the heathen rebels into amusements, which, if not nearly more spiritual in character than those which they supplanted, had at least the merit of bearing reference to the observances and recognizing the authority of the church and its ministers. The mysteries of miracle plays, in which even the clergy occasionally took part as performers, were the results, amid numerous others, of this policy. These singular dramas continued for many centuries to form a favorite amusement of the populace. Did you see that? That's what I've been saying for a very long time. These singular dramas continued for many centuries to form a favorite amusement of the populace, both at Christmas and other seasons of the year. And in the first volume of this work will be found an account of the celebration of the Whitsuntide mysteries at Chester. The Christmas mumming was in many respects a kindred diversion, though it appears to have partaken less of the religious element and resembled more nearly those medieval pageants in which certain subjects and characters taken from pagan mythology or popular legends were represented. Frequently, also, it assumed very much the nature of a masquerade, when the sole object of the actors is to disguise themselves and excite alternately laughter and admiration by the splendid or ridiculous costumes in which they are arrayed. Okay, so there we have it. And everything that is stated on this PowerPoint today is inside the book. That's both. You can put our pictures up now. That's both the the pictures and all the information stated is in the books.
All right. So Broderick says so. The colonized. This is going back a little bit. The colonized mind Moors has been fooled into barbarian by the infidels.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I was hoping you did.
So the colonized mind Moors has been fooled into barbarian by the infidel. Has been fooled into
I think when you were
barbarian
talking about
activities.
the Portuguese, when we were talking about the earlier part, so was it the Portuguese that corrupted the minds of the Moors, or was it the other way around?
The Portuguese corrupted the mind of the Moors. I guess I haven't really investigated that whole line of the connection in between the Portuguese and the Moors. Um, if you want to look at this information correctly, you can't go in, with the barbarian thing, and
With a
you can't.
preconceived notion. That's the notion that I
Right,
was talking about
preconceived
earlier.
notions, because
Yeah,
then you're
yeah,
unbiased in your point of view, and I mean then you're biased in your point of view is what I meant to say.
right. Yep.
And with that bias, you're looking for the
Confirmation
negative.
of what you believe or want to believe, and that's not research.
Right, and that's
That
not
ain't that
research.
ain't how to do it. Yeah,
Right,
that's
that's
not
not
what
how
we
to
do.
do it. So,
Questions and comments for Keenan Booker, the God 720. Questions. Put them up in the chat. PJ, I see you out there. Welcome back, beloved. Hopefully you got enough rest because we sent her to bed a lot of times this week.
this is the mummers
What we got?
parade right here I'm showing you.
Oh, okay.
That looks like a little
Excellent.
black face right there, don't it?
Yeah, it does.
And this is in
Sure
the middle of
does.
Philly.
Wow.
Yeah, that looks like hardcore blackface if you ask me.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Check that out.
You know, because here's the thing: when we look at the whole barbarian notion, if you were to try to take over the country today, or if you were trying to revitalize your position, how barbaric would you have to get?
Right. Right.
during the course of war.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
so um the barbarian has definitely ruled the land and has stepped on the neck of many different individuals when it pertaining to races. You can see it on the state seals. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a position that you are going to celebrate. If you were to be able to take over Europeans right now, you're going to celebrate the same type of imagery and put it on the
Regardless
state.
of what it took and what you had
Exactly.
to do it. That is a fact. That is an absolute fact. No, real talk. Okay, we got a question here. Who is this now? Let's see. Michelle Fernandez. A question I have is, what is good? What is good, my brothers? Okay, thank
What
you for
is
that,
my
Michelle.
brothers? Okay. I
We're
guess the
good.
Christmas gifts, I guess, are good because you're not gonna leave your children neglected, right? You're gonna try and get them
Yeah.
whatever gifts that you could get them. Hopefully,
What I thought
everybody's
was
relation.
interesting too is that birch with the, it's like if they're good, they get a candy. If they're not, there was a lot of child abuse and uh, child killing during this time. I mean, wow.
Well,
These
abuse
species
is
did
gonna
not
make you
like
move.
Grilla, Godzilla, whatever the hell her name is. What's her name? Gryla?
Well, I
Eating
mean,
babies.
abuse is gonna make you move. Abuse is gonna make you respect things. Abuse is gonna, I don't even want to call it abuse. I got my ass whooped as a child. I'm pretty sure you got, your ass whooped as a child doing some wrong things. It's for the
Yeah, but you didn't
social.
get eaten though. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we didn't
Nobody
get
was chomping
baked
on.
and eaten, and there was no Hansel and Gretel going down.
No, what none of
Right,
that, dude. You
right.
know,
So
you
getting
still
hit with
got
the
all your body
birch.
parts and everything with you. None of that stuff was chopped off. You weren't made. Nobody made soup out of you. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right. But here's the thing, though, that they're really reaching on. What they're really reaching on is that there is no learning without pain, and this doesn't
Right. You
have
even
to be
said that before.
right. And this isn't a thing that comes from their parents. If you touch the hot stove, you have received pain and you have now learned.
Hmm.
You know, if you don't tie your shoes and you step on your shoelace, trip, hit your head on the concrete, okay, you have now learned. And that pain is what taught you. It ain't had nothing to do with an adult, didn't have nothing to do with you getting whipped. Those are also areas of pain and learning. But you have to understand that the root alchemical force of this planet has encoded a structure. This is where we're getting down to the green and black, the matrix line, the zeros and the ones. There is an encoded dynamic system on this planet that there is no learning without pain.
Well, as
Okay.
they say, no pain, no gain.
Right, no pain, no gain, and
Yeah.
that is an encoded situation. It can
Yeah.
happen with you and your lover. You could have been deeply in love with somebody, then you broke up, and now you have learned that you really love them, and now you learned what love really, you see what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
same pattern is right there. It is a pattern that is unbroken on this planet and will never be broken. It doesn't matter how much technology we put in place, you know.
All right,
Um,
family. So the book is the volume is Kicked Out of Heaven, and you can go to kickedoutofheaven .com. Let me see here. Where's my mouse? Let's put this up on the screen. Let me copy
right.
it here.
Y'all get it? It's a big book. It's about the size of an
Let's
old
see.
telephone book. It's about the size of your grandma's Bible in the living room. You can replace it. You can if y'all grandma still got Bibles in the living room nowadays. Hopefully she ain't
Oh, that's
working
funny.
on TikTok or no crazy shit. Right. So get the
Let me see.
literature.
I think that's too much text for the. Is that? Oh no, it worked. I was thinking it was too much text for the for
Yeah, it's
the
half off now. It's
for the chat.
$50. Get
And
it
there
over
it is.
1,000 pictures. All the pictures that you saw today, and all the pictures that are on the prior webinar that we did about Krampus are all inside the book. All the information that I read on both webinars are inside the literature. Okay, and then there's a lot more. So in the volume 3, the word Christmas is actually mentioned over 90 times. So in a lot of different areas, you'll get compiled with different elements of what was
So it's
going
kind of a
on.
build up, yeah,
Right.
and
Uh,
cross
of
reference of it.
Right, of different ceremonies that happened in different locations that all bled into what we call Christmas today. It's sort of like the
Mm-hmm.
story of Cinderella. Did you know Cinderella is composed over 360 different stories?
Damn.
Exactly. They took elements from over 360 different stories to create one story. And that's why it has such a psychological influence and
Mm.
power. And that's
Mm-hmm.
also why you see a lot of movies in our America, Western civilization get repeated by generation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're trying to plant root operations in your behavior that sync with the Western world and how we should all be operating together underneath the culture, underneath the specific
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the Western culture the Western culture that they give us, not the root Western culture that they operate under. Okay.
Right.
So yeah.
All
That's
right,
the thing.
family. That is it. We are getting ready to close out, and I thank all of you for tuning in and tuning up. It's a nice little crowd out there, and we this is our first time doing our late night thing. We wanted to make sure everybody was home and had a little grub and a little time to be able to absorb this. Again, you need to watch this again and again. And what's really cool is like once you get the 3 volume set, then you can come back, watch the videos and the trainings, and get a deeper understanding. You're going to have some massive aha moments as a result of that. So, kickedoutofheaven.com, my brother. This has been another one for the books. Of course, this ain't your last time coming on doing this. We'll get ready and start planning for more lessons and more work in the new year. But family, this is you're very, very welcome. And let's see who we got out here. He says Ace is excited to receive the set.
Yeah.
Uh,
This
can't
is
wait
probably what we're
to
gonna be
be
going
able
on.
to follow along.
Yeah.
We got Dre saying, "Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you for coming on." And this is it. All right, community. We will see you next time on First. Matter of fact, I'll see you tomorrow with
Mhm.
Dr. Clyde Winters, and we got a big one that everyone is truly digging. Thank you, thank you. Hey, Patrice, what's going on, my brother? Appreciate you. Thank you, thank you.
Speaking
Yes,
from the
yes, yes.
grave, Patrice Lumumba,
All
huh?
right. All right. All right, family. We'll see you next time on First Frequency of Oneness, Shock Metaphysics. Stay with me in the green room, brother Keenan, as
Mm.
we sign off. Take care, everybody.
All right.